And we're back. In the
Back
system
after
page.
we've given Erica the cold shoulder. We were just looking at
She
Kinzo.
gave everyone else the cold shoulder.
No, everyone kind of gave her the cold shoulder because she was being mean. Oh, Dylan
I can't get over
looks
those
like
Sora
she's got a
pants.
wedgie. She looks like she's got
She's
a wedgie.
gonna pull out her keyblade and he's like, okay.
Oh, I just got laser beamed in the eye by your mouse. Ah!
That was my red truth. Erica-chan, huh? She's an odd kid. Somehow, I just can't seem to get along well with young kids these days. What?
It's so small.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll deal with it.
You're still pretty young yourself, George-san.
I guess it's because I've always been the oldest of the cousins. It's always made me feel like I'm not one of the young ones anymore.
I want to see him do his salsa dancing kick moves again.
Flamenco!
Like the rose petals falling and him being like da-da-da-da. George and Shannon could be seen standing in the rainy rose garden. Though the rain was still pouring down, there was hardly any wind at all. The scant protection provided by the arbour was more than enough to house this secret meeting between lovers. Following that fight with Erica, they had decided to play some cards for a change of pace. When that was over, Shannon had returned to the servant room. And shortly after that, George had left his room to meet with Shannon at the time they had arranged.
I think kids around Erica-san's age have a hard time getting along with themselves, more so than any other age.
Like 2 or 3 years younger. Yeah, that's true. Around that age, most kids are so determined to free themselves from the shell of childhood that they lash out in all directions with their beaks.
Wait, is Shannon the same age as George, or is she the same age as Battler? Because
George is 21, I think.
He's the oldest, right?
Let's see if it's in the system. Back. It does not say. So I think it goes George. I think it's this. I think it's George, Shannon, Battler,
Oh, really? I thought it
Jessica.
would have been George Battler.
Battler is like in his last year of high school.
Yeah. Okay. George, Shannon, Battler, Jessica. What is his name?
I keep thinking Kinzo, but it's Kanon.
Kanon, yep. And then Maria is definitely the baby of the group.
Well, Anji's the baby.
Maria acts like the baby. Well, it's weird because Maria is technically the baby, and Anji, with her like Steins Gate powers, is older than Anji. Anji's older than Maria.
Anji is younger, but she's just alive.
Yeah, she's outlived Maria. That's so morbid.
When they do break out, they'll finally be free to stretch their wings and fly high. I was like that too. My old self, still trapped inside that shell, was a weak, deplorable person who I couldn't really respect. Sounds like a Redditor.
That's not true.
No, it's okay. I realize it myself. Back then, I might have been the oldest of the cousins, but I was still lazy. A lazy, hopeless person.
So we have guaranteed he is the oldest of the cousins.
He is. And it wasn't just with the cousins. At home, at school, I was like that everywhere.
Wait, isn't Jessica the same age as Battler?
No. Remember, George was the firstborn from Ava and Hideyoshi. Natsuhi was upset because she couldn't bear a child for a while. So I think Rudolph and Asumu, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Their Battler during the time Natsuhi still was struggling.
Apparently Asumu isn't his mum, so...
Yeah. He was born, like, during the period
woman.
where Jessica was still not around yet. Yeah.
Okay. Is this George still talking?
Oh, yeah, I hated being like that. I wanted to break that shell and become a splendid adult like mother and father.
But in the end, you did break out of that shell, George-sama. Every time I've met you these past few years, you've grown beyond recognition.
Thank you.
Did something cause you to make up your mind?
To break out of my shell?
Yes. I can't imagine that you grew so rapidly, like a butterfly breaking out of its cocoon, by just wandering around aimlessly. I thought there must have been some turning point that made you become so determined.
I fell in love with you and grew thanks to that power of love, is what I've told you so far.
But it feels like a lie! Oh no!
But the truth is, the turning point was a much more negative emotion.
No way.
I could just see her being like, oh, so.
It's hard to believe that someone who's always as bright and cheerful as you could have negative emotions.
I think Shannon sees George through rose-coloured glasses.
No, that's George. He's the one with the glasses. Well, my parents brought me up to treat women with care, and I thought that I'd manage to live my life that way.
Yes. I think you're wonderful, a real gentleman.
But I'm not, actually. I'm the killer! I didn't know how to interact with the opposite sex. I defied them excessively, and though I always behaved in a gentlemanly...
Deified has a very different meaning to defied.
Yeah,
I almost read it as defiled. I was like, oh, George!
I deified them excessively, and though I have always behaved in a gentlemanly, ladies first kind of way, I was probably outright afraid of interacting with girls.
Of course, George had wanted to be around girls as much as any healthy boy might. However, he didn't know how to interact with them. He wanted to act like a gentleman to avoid being disliked by them, treating them with care.
This is why I hate George.
Of those feelings, only the words treat women with care took precedence, blossoming into a subconscious fear of women.
I see too much of my puberty in him.
I was going to say, I don't think it's something that's just like set to, that's a George thing. I feel like most people go through this stage.
Probably
Girls
not most,
too, but
I think, but there's like a decent amount of guys who are like this, or who have had stages like this.
Well, maybe not the full like deifying stage as George, but just the like you want to like be around people, but you don't know how to act.
No, I'd say the deifying is pretty accurate. I know
Really?
people who are like that too, yeah, or were like that at least. You might call a man like that gentlemanly or a late bloomer. Ridiculous. I was just a coward. Because of that, I started to wonder why I couldn't get a girlfriend if I was so gentlemanly.
He's becoming a insult.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's like that. He's like a redditor. He's like, you know. And hey, just to clarify, not all redditors are like this. I'm just referring to like the stereotypical, you know. And I eventually came to the conclusion that all the women in the world had no taste, and started to hate all of them selfishly. See, I mentioned this at the start.
He's literally an incel.
That's what a truly pathetic man looks like.
Oh, good. George has reflected and learned on his mistakes.
He learned how to dance. How many years ago was it when I noticed?
Wait, in that fight scene, did he have a rose?
I think there was
for some reason, I just see him with like a rose between his teeth being like, cha-cha-cha.
I don't know if he had a rose, but there was, because it was in the rose garden, there was definitely like some rose, what's the word, imagery in there.
I want to see it animated so badly.
You can.
Was it included in the anime?
Yeah, that was in the anime.
Did it have like scenes where it was just like and like
No,
Moroccan like
he didn't
dancing
actually...
music with like castanettas
I
and
think
like
it had
maracas?
his music in there, but he wasn't actually dancing. He was fighting. Like
The
it
way
was just the music.
The
was
way
there.
it's written kind of makes it seem like
Well,
a dance.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think it fits his personality trying to be a gentleman.
Yeah, it does.
While beating up a
See, I'm a gentleman. I beat up women with passion.
So I don't know if he's that much of a gentleman. I think he doesn't really... My interpretation is he doesn't care about women, doesn't really even care about his own family to a certain extent. All he cares about is Shannon.
Yeah.
And
well,
having Shannon. Like, wasn't he willing to, like, let everybody die and basically the world could burn as long as he and Shannon could be together?
But that's now. This is, like, him back then. When he was the gentleman kind of guy. Even though Shannon's still like, oh yeah, I still see you as gentlemanly, he's like, nah. How many years ago was it when I noticed? Probably when I was in middle school. At the time, I assumed that I was obviously the most gentlemanly of all the cousins, so I would obviously be popular with women.
What do you mean among the cousins? The only one he has to compare himself with is Butler. The rest are girls.
We'll go into it. However, reality was very different. At school, I was pretty much completely hopeless. Far from being a leader, I was the typical bullied kid who got pushed around by everyone.
Yeah, I can see that.
At the time, I figured I was just a capable and adaptable man who could keep in perfect tune with his surroundings. How stupid. Sure, I might have gained some measure of trust from girls. However, not only was there no one who would become my girlfriend, there weren't even any girls I could call friends. Of course, I was a man who always stepped back for the sake of ladies first. Who would ever want to follow behind such a negative, unmotivated man? It's funny, I didn't even realize this, and was convinced that I was an attractive guy.
I can sort of understand how you felt. Just because someone puts in a lot of hard work to look attractive to the opposite sex, it doesn't necessarily work out as they plan.
Oh? Has that happened to you too, Shannon?
It feels like his eyes are like, tell me who it is, I'm gonna beat them up.
Of course. One time, I wanted to catch a boy's eye so much, I tried to put on makeup even though I didn't know how and embarrassed myself. I remember a lot of embarrassing failures.
The person that made me finally get over my conceit and open my eyes was you, Shannon. No, it was both of you.
Both of you? Both of you?
Go into it, don't worry.
What was the turning point for you, George-san?
This is ruining my Shannon George
Fanfic?
illusion. I thought they were like always had eyes for each other since they grew up together.
No.
Really? That's
It's
not...
been mentioned.
Oh.
Haha. Envy, probably.
That's unexpected. But envy over what?
Oh, my voice.
I saw you and Batlakun having a really good time talking.
And I wanted to take that away.
That made me envious.
Me and Batler-sama?
Shannon raced through her memories, trying to find a conversation that might have made George envious.
It probably seemed trivial to you two. However, it still made me envious. I don't want Battler to hear what I say next, no matter what. Can you promise me?
Of course.
Is that Battler's back that we're looking at?
That was a young Battler, yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be a shameful confession. Still, I want you to hear it. I want to hear your answer tonight, only after I've told you about my bad sides as well.
Okay. Let me hear it.
With a smile but a serious look in her eyes, Shannon nodded. tonight, she knew what he was going to ask her tonight. George had the right to confess before asking that sacred question, and Shannon had the obligation to listen. Shannon understood this, so she listened quietly. So this is what a witch of theatre-going peeps in on during her spare time? Stories of love are precious in any age. I never tire of them. However, I do find that expression of virgin disgust on your face even more amusing. Featherine laughed quietly, and she huffed and looked away, but she quickly realized that this would only entertain Featherine even more, so she tried to act unconcerned.
Both Batlakun and Jessica-chan have always been spirited. No, phrasing it that way is just dodging the issue. Let me be frank.
George looked up where the moon should be, high above the rain clouds, and spoke. They were honest words, spoken simply from George's heart.
For a long time, back then, I thought of Batlakun and Jessica-chan as bad-mannered kids. No, let me be even more blunt. I thought that even the way they talked was vulgar. It's true. I don't mind if you hold me in contempt for that.
I don't. People are allowed to think anything they want inside their hearts. In fact, I think you are all the more commendable for not letting it show on the outside.
Thanks. I secretly looked down on those two.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
I was so conceited that I truly thought I was just overflowing with gentlemanly charm compared to them. More of a gentleman than Jessica.
Oh, George, I can't. Alright, continue, George. Continue.
I was at that age where having a girlfriend felt like a necessary condition for becoming a real man.
I'm a real boy!
I truly believed that no girl could fail to admire a gentleman who treated girls as well as I did. So, I really did assume that the girls I knew were attracted to me. I wonder... I don't know if this would be like a... I suppose a universal thing, or...
I feel like I'm dying of cringe here in the corner.
Like, since it's a Japanese story, I wonder if it is just like a universal thing. This whole, like... cringe... cringy... male
He is
puberty
basically
kind of thing.
He's basically admitting nice guys finish last with a fedora.
Yeah. So like in the Western, it's a meme. Because of how prevalent it was, at least. I don't know how it is nowadays.
I
But
feel like there are incels in Japan that is... I don't know if they necessarily have that word.
well, it's not even necessarily incels. It's just like it's a mindset that. Yeah, I was flying around last episode, and I was laughing. I was like, it's gonna fly over us.
Jackie, I hate moths.
It's not a moth, it's a beetle.
No, it's even worse. They all go for the eyes.
Yeah, they do. It's fine.
Where did it go?
It's on the fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You have to protect me. I hate them.
If you ignore it, it'll disappear. It's magic. Yeah, what I was saying is, like, it might not necessarily even be just incels. Like, it's just like a mindset, I think. And it's more prevalent in such communities, though.
The way he describes it, I guess because I'm thinking in like an anime style is how my brain is interpreting it. When he talks about, like, this overflowing, don't look at the fan, it's freaking me out. I can hear
behind the curtain.
I can hear it hitting the walls.
It's behind the curtain.
Like, talking about, like, I have this, like, gentlemanly aura just pouring out of me, just oozing, like this, I don't know, you know how they draw them and they've got, like, the aura clouds. It's just like, yes, like, look at me, I am so amazing, I am so brilliant, just...
It's Dio.
Such a big ego. And just, like, anybody who talks to me must be in love with me. There's girls who think like that too, though.
Well, yeah, it's it is just a mindset, so it can be applied to anyone.
But I don't feel like when it's girls that I've known in person that when they're like, oh, they talk to me like they're in love with me, like I've got so many boys in love with me, they don't walk around with a like oozing gentlemanly, I don't know, womanly aura. It's just they're flirty.
Well, yeah, they go about it different ways. I don't know. I had a thought because of like my own past, being a young cringe kid, which I never grew out of.
I don't know if it's that you were a young cringe kid. I just feel like you were shy.
Well, no. Yes, but no.
Did you have the same thoughts of George? Of being like super gentlemanly and having an aura that was
not
blasting
entirely
out of your balls?
Not like that.
No, okay.
But like, because like mum and like the old ladies at church and stuff would always call me a gentleman and stuff like that. So I kind of had that in my mind, like, oh, I've got to be a bit more like proper and like old fashioned, I guess, to live up to that what do you call it? That image that I've got going on from these old ladies and my mum.
Yeah.
So like I kind of took on that gentlemanly-esque.
I know old ladies are
not the best things to go off of.
Yeah, it's not like there's some things that their advice is probably not the best, and there's other things that they probably have a lot of life advice to give. But yeah, there's different. I don't know. It's hard because you got life experience, but also different generational expectations on what is seen as acceptable and norms as well.
So with me, like, I had that originally when I was like younger.
Yeah.
And then like as I got older, I kind of got conflicted because like I saw like that toxic side of it that George is talking about in like other people, and I was like, oh, I don't want to
school and stuff, or
just
in your friends.
Yeah, or even just in media. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Even myself maybe. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be like that. And so like I kind of had that confliction where I was like, do I keep acting like that, just a bit more controlled, or what? Do I like just scrap it all together or whatnot? And so, yeah, I more or less just kind of grew out of it.
Yeah, I think for me, I saw jealousy at a really, because I had a lot of older friends. I remember like seeing jealousy at a really young age.
What they were jealous of.
I had like some friends who were jealous of another person who was supposed to be their really good friends, because there was only like one person who had a boyfriend in their friend group, and they were just so jealous. It's, I don't know, jealousy is a tricky emotion because it's a very human emotion to have.
Yeah,
but it depends.
I was plenty jealous.
I think it depends on like how it's expressed and displayed, because they were so jealous. It made them like beautiful girls just become ugly, and I remember thinking like, oh, like that's not a good thing. You should just be happy for your friends if they're happy and want. I don't know.
I was like pretty jealous of my friends, my close friends.
Was it like just jealous of their situation, or jealous because that was like they were with the person you wanted to be with?
It wasn't so much that. It was more so like just who they were, and like it was like I looked up to them kind of.
Yeah.
It was that kind of jealousy. It was like, man, I wish I was like that. I wish I was that. And it was sort of like a competitive thing, I guess. So it was like,
yeah, it
made me want to better myself, which was a good thing. But also at the same time, it's like,
does it put a lot of pressure on you at that age?
For sure.
Yeah.
So I'd be like my friend who got into breakdancing, and like he could do flips, he could do all this stuff, and I was like, man, I gotta learn something that only I can do and that he can't and stuff. So I like taught myself how to handspring, and I was like, man, I can handspring now, that's awesome. And then eventually, of course, he did it straight after, but it was still like, it led me to doing things that made me better myself, or feel better about myself at least.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all that bad. And like, I think having that bit of competitiveness, at least for a guy, I guess, maybe girls as well, it's not bad as long as you go about it the right way. And you don't let it kind of overwhelm you. If you let it like take over you, you get pretty crushed and you just go down. So I've been on both sides.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess there's some things. It's like what is the word? Not premeditated it's like there's. Yeah, I'm just reflecting on myself. Like, you have beliefs, or like you think things. Like, people will be attracted to certain things or certain talents, and that's how you'll get attention, I guess, from the opposite sex. But it doesn't always work that way. Because I think for me it was probably like having like a musical talent. Like, you think like,
Yes, heard all about it.
I haven't talked to you about this.
You told me once. You were like, I like showing off when I play piano.
No!
You said it to me.
I
was
not.
asking you something about why you always took like the piano roles at school and church and stuff, and you're like, because I like showing off. You literally said that. Literally.
Most of the time I'm pulled into that stuff.
Well, yeah, now for sure.
No, even like
back then. But you did tell me that you did it because you like to show off.
No, I could see me saying like I would like to show off, because I don't feel like I've had the opportunity to. The only places I could have shown off were like at a Stedfords. I didn't have anyone.
You did plenty. You did that entry that you were the only one in there for.
Shut up.
I mean, to your...
No, I mean, like...
To be fair, you did well.
None of my... The only people who saw my, like, peak abilities was, like, family and, like, teacher. Like, there were no friends there. There were no, like, other people there. The music that I had to play for other things where there was, like, peers and stuff at was nowhere near what I was capable of doing. If anything, I wished I could have showed off, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I couldn't. I don't know. Basically, my story is... That got me nowhere. Like, nothing came out of that.
I was probably more of the show-off, to be honest.
Yeah, you had the showy pieces that you got to play.
Because I learned it myself. It was like... I don't know.
You had that...
That one year where I
Bumblebee
just
song
went nuts and won every piece, like every entry I went into.
I know.
I won the big trophy, and I was like, oh, damn.
It's kind of crazy. Because I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, nobody knows. I have a cupboard full of trophies hidden away.
This is the same. I'm like I went and, like, when, fellow over there was like going through my room and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just like seeing all my trophies out and was just like, what has this gotten me?
I know,
This has done nothing for me.
It's done nothing. It's like secretly they're hidden behind a wall of stuffed cows.
Yeah. The only trophy I liked though was like the blue one because it looks cool.
Yeah.
I was like, I really wanted to win that one that year, and that's the year that I won everything.
Yeah. The sad thing is, like, my ability, because I don't have anything to practice on, has, like, completely gone down the drain.
Yeah, me too.
And it's really frustrating when you go back and you try and do things, and it's like your brain is telling your body to do something, and you know you've been able to do it, and you know that you can do it, but it's like something doesn't translate halfway through, and the body just doesn't function the way you want it to, and it's really...
Like, I just can't do Bumble Boogie anymore.
And I think I'm, like, blind. Like, I can't read notes properly anymore either. I need glasses, but the glasses that I have help me see the music and help me read it. But when I look down at the keys, it's, like, all blurry and I can't see, and I'm like, oh, I'm stuck.
You should get, like, just, like, some sort of magnifying piece and have it covered. Just so it's, like...
That'd be hard for turning pages, though. I just need...
Just play from memory.
Please tell me that's not a cockroach. No, that is a beetle.
That's the beetle. Hang on. We've gotten sidetracked, but I'm going to try and catch this. Here you go.
Who's there? You might need a piece of paper. Where's your paper? Do you have any paper? You've got plenty of paper. Just use your
get me one.
prescription. Ah, here we go. Use this. Got it?
Okay.
Jackie has captured the beetle. He could probably chill there. He can chill in that little cup until... He won't suffocate, it's paper. Alright. I can report Jackie is safely transporting the beetle out. Because he's kind. If it was me, I would have squashed it. The beetle is now being released into the wild. Away from the cat. Capture and release has been successfully executed.
You know, I'm just gonna edit that out.
That's fine.
We've gone on like such a big tangent, and then we've had the Beatles, so it's just like...
But I also know there's a part of you that will just be like, I can't be bothered editing. It's gonna stay
Yeah, maybe.
So many things I'm like, edit this out, edit this out, edit it out, and then you leave it in there. And I'm like,
Yeah, I leave those on purpose, but there were like so many things that I was like, I need to edit this out, and I just, when I was in editing, I just didn't pick up on it. I didn't hear it or whatever.
Like people walking.
Yeah, like mama or relatives coming in and being like, "Oi, do this," and me being like, "Get out."
You don't do that.
No, not verbally.
Alright, let's get back to
I forgot what
George.
we were up to when we were on the tangent, so we'll just go back into the actual story.
We'll go back into the world of...
And then it'll all start
Teenage
flowing
angst.
up again. And being like, oh man, when I was in high school...
It's just, George's monologue is... it's relatable, but it's also...
I hate...
cringe.
Like, I don't hate George. I just hate that this part is relatable to me in any way. I'm just like, oh, I can't believe this. This is so cringe. Anyway.
Interesting.
I thought that Battler-kun and Jessica-chan, who always joked around and spoke in a rude, vulgar fashion, would never be able to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend. I might have used that argument to distract myself when I still couldn't get one myself. I was a fool. They weren't inferior to me at all. I was the inferior one, with my deification of the opposite sex and my fear, which I hid under the guise of ladies first.
Okay, this is another tangent. I just don't... Maybe it's because I just can't relate. That's probably it. I just can't relate to this emotion, but I've never understood why everything has to be a competition with your family. Like, why family members feel the need to compete with each other or be better than each other. Just think like you're different. Maybe because all of us, sibling-wise, are very different.
I don't really see that. I've never really seen family as competitive. More the opposite. I saw my friends as competitive. Rather than...
Friends, I understand, but like I've seen it in life and with other people. Like you got siblings competing with other siblings for certain things, such as like what George was talking about, like getting a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
I imagine in George's case, it's because his cousins were like the only people he was really close with. Because he said he didn't have many friends.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
true.
So the only people he would be competing against would be family, or I guess like mortal enemies in school or something.
Yeah. But there's still that concept of like I need to like be better.
Well, that's also with
than
his
these
mum.
people.
His mum was very pushy in that.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, those siblings did compete against each other a lot too.
Yeah.
They're still competing against each other.
Their children were pieces to use as competition.
Yeah. Which is pretty sad for the kids.
Granted, they all care about their kids, at least.
Yeah.
Rosa, debatable.
Rosa needs a... Well, she did have a visit from, like, social services.
Yeah, she had many.
Oh, wow. Yep. Rosa. Oh, Rosa. That's been Butler's and Jessica's personality from the beginning. True, they were rude and one couldn't have called them gentlemanly or ladylike. However, they did have the power to interact without worrying about gender. In fact, you might even call that their charm. I sort of understand. People like Oni-chan and Jessica One-chan can get along with anyone, whether that person's a boy or a girl. I hate to bring it up because of George Oni-chan, but I find people who act too overtly like a gentleman a bit creepy. It's like they're virgins trying too hard or whatever. When dealing with strangers, people prefer for them to be harmless and boring. However, they only appreciate these qualities because such a person doesn't get in the way. No human would want to hang around with a boring person all the time. Of course. No idiot would want to be friends with an unmoving, unspeaking telephone pole. However, unmoving and unspeaking is exactly what you'd want from a telephone pole. What? That's it.
Like, you don't want to hang around someone who is like a telephone pole that just doesn't speak and doesn't feel anything. But when you have a telephone pole there, that's exactly what you expect of that thing.
So she's saying George is the telephone pole?
Yeah, so like he was just there. And like they didn't really want to hang around him, but he was just there. So they expected him one way and he fulfilled that expectation.
Okay.
That's it.
It seems as though George finally discovered that he wouldn't be viewed as an attractive man, no matter how superior he was, and that he had been treated like a telephone pole the whole time. So that was his motivating factor then? Is what they're getting at?
What, telephone poles?
Yeah.
It was
Well, no, I guess
his
he said
family,
his
what's it called? Inferiority complex?
Yeah, good way to put it.
Back then, my conceit was at its peak, so when everyone gathered at the family conference, I believed that I was the most attractive and that all the servant girls who played with us loved having me there. On that day,
Servant girl.
I finally realized how pathetic I was.
Oh, good on you, George.
Did I say something inconsiderate then?
No, it's the opposite. You didn't say anything at all. My conceited delusion that I was the only one ever reflected in your eyes was crushed. Just when did it start? No, it must have started long before then. I only failed to notice because my eyes were clouded with conceit.
This really has shattered my George Shannon ship. I really thought that they always had eyes for each other.
He has touched on this lightly, but in the past.
Well,
Not even lightly.
It's completely missed my head.
I don't know, I can't remember when, but he did go through this, just not as in-depth. One day, I suddenly realized it. All of you were getting along with Butler and Jessica-chan far better than with me, playing around and having a good time. Yes, those two, whom I had looked down upon so much, were radiating far more charm than I was. You really looked like you were enjoying yourself that day.
She probably was.
The look on your face was far brighter than any you ever showed me.
So he was like, I want her to look at me that way.
Yeah. Haha. Sickening, isn't it? I just assumed that you liked me, and even had some childish fantasy that we might end up dating. I one-sidedly felt as though my girlfriend had been stolen from me, and let myself feel hurt.
See, that's the problem, because
Yeah.
they're not even an item. You shouldn't have those thoughts.
I was such a pathetic man. That's when I finally realized how foolish I'd been.
George Summer!
After that, Stuff happened and Batlakun stopped coming to the family conferences, but I heard about him from time to time from Uncle Rudolph. He's a pretty funny guy. Even though he got in fights with Batlakun all the time, he always paid close attention to what his son was up to.
That's true. He spoke to me about it as well. I think even Asumu-sama was exasperated by it. She thought all this popularity with the girls at school and the unceasing trouble this caused must have been because of Rudolph-sama's blood.
And Jessica's Chan too. I hear she built up a huge number of friends, both boys and girls, and that she was always right in the middle of things. When I talked with her myself, I could see that this was no exaggeration. This proved that the two I'd looked down upon were much more attractive human beings than I was. At first, I tried to imitate those two. It was pretty ridiculous. I thought that by joking around and speaking rudely, I could get that same charm they had.
You did that? It's a bit hard to picture.
It was miserable. I wish I could forget that time for the rest of my life. In any event, I quickly realized that I could never become truly attractive by imitating them like that. The reason I had no charm was because of my cowardice. Under the pretense of respecting people and acting to fit in with the general atmosphere, I was always running away. I resolved myself to overcome that flaw and be reborn. I finally understood the shell I was in, and I swore to break out of it. Every time my determination began to waver, I'd remember that day. That day I saw you two forget about me entirely and play around happily. And the fact that those eyes of yours, which I had always assumed were attracted to me, never noticed me at all. I made an oath. This time, I wanted to be the one who caught your attention for real, the one reflected in your eyes. That's actually the first thing I felt when I fell in love with you. He's saying what you were saying.
I wanted to pull it closer to me.
No, I know, it's just the wire's kind of at its limit.
Sounds like it was pretty complicated for you.
On that day, my desire for revenge against the two of you who had ignored me and played together, no, against you alone,
Oh my goodness!
suddenly transformed into true love.
I don't know if it works that way.
However, I swear this to God, even though that was the reason I first started to take you seriously. There are no lies in the way I feel about you now.
He just wants to own her.
I swear to love you for all my life. I will not lie about that for anyone or anything. And I am prepared to take you as my wife, even if it means having the entire world as my enemy.
George,
Son, isn't that like... Shouldn't it be like George Chan or...
She's been going George Sun, George Summer.
Yeah, true.
That's the confession I wanted to make to you beforehand. Before now, I've called you my first love, love at first sight. That was a lie. It was only my selfish, twisted...
that doesn't matter.
Shannon smiled, but she spoke forcefully enough to cut through George's words.
That doesn't matter! Is there some rule saying that people can't get together just because they weren't each other's first love? Is it betrayal to forget the first person you fell in love with? Love isn't that simple.
Well, that is true, Shannon.
Well, it might be simple. Shannon! After all, love is easy. At all times, whatever you feel now. Only the honest feelings you feel now can tell you the right answer. So, the things of the past or how our relationship started aren't important at all.
Then, confessing to you all that was wrong of me? He's so cute.
No, I'm a bit glad to learn that even George-san, who's always perfect at everything, has a human side to him. And I'm kind of glad that I'm the only person you've told this to.
Thank you. I was only able to become who I am because of you.
Me too. I am as I am because of you, George-san. So please tell me without holding back. What kind of husband and wife will we be? And what kind of future will we build together?
When I have you as my wife, I will become an even more accomplished businessman than my father. And after several challenges and adventures, I hope to find the limits of my potential. I want to reach that peak together with you. The view from there will be something no one can show you but me.
It sounds fun. I'll be with you wherever you go.
His glasses got foggy.
This is done the... Of course, it won't only be an adventure as a businessman. I like to create many things that only a couple can make.
And what could that be? Oh, I'm so naive, I don't know.
Let's have some kids.
Yes, my husband.
I'd like 3 of them at least. At least 1 boy and 1 girl, and one to be called George Jr.
And what if all 3 are boys?
Then the next one might be a girl. We can have a 4th one. It doesn't matter how many.
Well, George, you're not the one birthing the babies, okay?
Let's enjoy the adventure of bringing them up together. And when those children eventually leave their nest, they'll make us some grandchildren. Before we know it, we'll reach a boisterous old age surrounded by a whole crowd of kids and grandchildren.
It sounds like fun. I wonder what kind of a grandpa you'll be.
And I wonder what kind of a grandma you'll be. However, I will always keep loving you. And when we eventually pass away, surrounded by our vast family, our lives will stretch behind us, unmatched by anyone else's.
George didn't just talk about his love of the present. He swore to love her soul until the final moment when the lid of their coffins would be shut. Then George took a small box out of his pocket. Even without opening it, she knew what was inside.
Winchester rifle.
He took it out with a motion that was even more natural than the one he'd practiced in the airport bathroom, and it was overflowing with masculine charm. He's not a gentleman anymore.
Sayo.
Oh, that's her name. Wait, that's her name?
I'm pretty sure it was... She said that, like...
Why is she called Shannon?
Because all the servants take on a name with non in the name. There's Kinzo's whim kind of thing.
Yes.
Let's get married.
Yes.
Please, take this ring and put it on your finger.
Yes, George-san.
That ring, which glistened divinely even in the dim light of the arbor, passed from George's hand to Shannon's finger. Of course, Shannon had already decided which finger to put it on.
I swear to resolutely stand against any fate that may attempt to stand in the way of our future.
I'm so confused. Why did she have to think about what finger it goes on?
She didn't.
She said she'd already decided.
Well, in the past she did, because it was like, he gave it to her and he was like, you can put that on any finger. I'll let you decide. Essentially, it was like, you can say yes or no.
Okay. Then you may as well just not wear the ring at all.
Well, yeah. But then, free ring. Sell it.
George proclaimed that he would reveal their engagement to the entire family on the next day.
My parents might criticize this marriage. However, I will not let them stop us. I'm going to inform them of our engagement, not ask for their permission. If Mother says that she won't allow our marriage, I plan to have myself disinherited, and we'll leave this family together. Disinherited! I have been prepared for that since long ago. I swear once again to resolutely stand against all fates that get in the way of our future.
George had said it aloud, So Shannon said the same thing.
Me too. I swear to stand against all fates that get in the way of our future, George-san.
Battler-san, when will the crime start? I've just about had it with this love show. Be quiet and watch. Sure, fine. I'd hate to yawn and let some spectacular bit of foreshadowing slip by. Do you have no love? Are there any mystery novels that accept love as proof? No, there aren't.
Erica laughed coldly and stared down at the 2 on the game board. Butler watched her quietly. Erica thought she felt a touch of pity in his gaze, and she averted her eyes uncomfortably. Is this what triggers her to have a wedding?
No.
We'll have to wait and see.
I do understand, more or less. Love can at least become a motive for murder. I can interpret this scene beneath the arbor to represent a possible motive for the crime if their engagement is somehow impeded. Then again, no matter how much people talk of love with words that aren't read, it's all just an illusion. That's sad. So, you could never love a human without proof given to you by a witch? Please put an end to this frivolous love talk. I'm your enemy, not a friend to whom you can talk about love just for the hell of it. I can't understand you all at all right now. What on earth did you figure out? Weren't you and Beato always insulting and trying to kill each other? What kind of truth could you have reached to make you change your emotions regarding her? Please don't tell me that feelings of true love have sprouted from your murderous rivalry, or anything like that, okay?
Lady Erica, let us have him continue the game's progression. Boring love scenes such as this are best finished quickly.
You've got a point there. Sorry for butting in. Come on, let's move on.
It's Shannon. I've come back.
Genji. Indeed. The log for today has not yet been filled out.
Nah, Genji needs to sound older.
Older or deeper?
Bit of both?
Yes, I'll do that right away. Kanon-kun, thanks for keeping an eye out while I was gone.
That was a pretty long break.
Kanon had already noticed. There was a silvery glint coming from the ring finger on Shannon's left hand.
Then I will retire. Please do not hesitate to wake me if anything occurs. Good night,
Genji-sama.
Genji disappeared off to the waiting room. After that, only Shannon and Kanon remained.
Thanks for giving me some time. I'll stay here for the rest so you can go to sleep now.
So, it's my turn next.
Yeah, sorry, but we aren't going to lose.
And I won't lose either.
Wait, are they fighting against each other?
Remember, it was like, if George and Shannon get together, she leaves the island, and they never see each other. They never see Kanon and Shannon together again.
But why? Can they not just all leave together?
And then Kanon was like, if I get together with Jessica, then I can't remember. I think it was like Shannon stays. I can't remember. It was something. I can't remember.
I vaguely remember it. seems a bit weird at the moment, but it will come back to me, I'm sure.
Well, it was more so like, if Shannon and George get together, they're just gone. They're going to leave the island, they're going to leave the family, they're just going to, like, do their own thing, and then they'll never look back. And then Kanon, I think, wanted to, like... His was a bit more... what's the word? I've forgotten the word. I can't think.
Is it kind of like they felt like they couldn't take away too many heirs from the Ushiromiya family?
I think that's what you said back in one of the older chapters.
Even though you've always been a coward and let Milady take the lead until now?
Wasn't it you who taught me, Nair-san?
What did I teach you?
The past is immaterial when it comes to love. The present is all that matters. If that's true, then I think my present is in no way inferior to yours, Nair-san.
Shannon and Kanon glared at each other with serious eyes. That period of tension vanished when Shannon chuckled.
Yeah, that's good. You and Milady have to give it your all. If you do end up together, make sure you build up a relationship wonderful enough that the rest of us can cheer you on with all of our hearts.
Well, you do have a huge lead on me.
There's no helping that. That's what you get for your cowardice before now.
I know. That is my sin.
Shannon and Kanon fished around in their pockets and drew out two small things that glittered gold. They looked like the left and right wings of a gold butterfly.
We are furniture. In order to become human and receive the miracle that allows us to love, we must rely on a miracle of magic once again.
To think that her brooch would actually prove useful. Brooch.
It's the only magic within our reach.
It was the golden butterfly brooch, which Beatrice had once given to Shannon in the hopes of creating love between her and George. Shannon then gave it to Kanon, but he let his emotions get a hold of him and crushed it into pieces. So when the two wings they held were brought together, it would regain the form of a beautiful butterfly.
Then I'll be back soon. After all, they have asked me to play cards with them.
Yeah, good luck. I'm sure Milady will be happy.
It's a bit embarrassing.
Enjoy that feeling.
Kanon left the servant room. He went to go see Jessica and tell her what he had determined to do. Shannon quietly watched him go. The fragment of the brooch and the engagement ring let off a gold and silver glint.
Couldn't afford diamond, George? Come on.
That takes me back. That's something I gave Shannon, if I recall. I always wondered if they lost it after Kanon stepped on it, but it seems they still had it the whole time. That's the golden butterfly brooch, isn't it? I read about the magical brooch that can save a love relationship in Feathery-san's book. That had been the first time that Beatrice, Witch of the Forest, had interacted with a human and given them her power. Bit by bit, she had transformed from a mere ghost to the ruler of the mansion at night, and by making the servants believe in her, she had wiped away the anti-magic power. And then, it eventually became possible for her to appear openly in front of Shannon, whose magic resistance had grown particularly low, and who had begun to believe in the existence of Beatrice. To Beato, who had been unable to interact with anyone for many years, this conversation with Shannon must have been especially fun. That's why I generously gave her the butterfly brooch. I was in quite a good mood. It is no common thing for a heartless witch such as myself to be so gracious. But it's wonderful. You brought a pair of future lovers together. Of course, I did not do it to pamper them. It was in exchange for smashing that hateful spirit mirror that had repressed my magical powers. Thanks to that, I was able to regain much of my power all in one go. Why was the mirror there to begin with? Did we find that out? Or was it just something that was there?
The mirror was... I think it was supposedly put there by like a Shinto priest or something.
Because of the Beatrice pranks?
No, like, because it's an old island. I think the shrine was there originally. From like an older time period or something.
Yeah.
And then like a priest came along and like did his thing for a ritual, I guess.
But then, one night, purple lightning smashed the shrine. Those of the surrounding islands called it an evil omen. Ooh, now that I think of it, that must have been a prelude to Beatrice Summer's resurrection. Kumasawa had the rest of the night off, so she had let Erika talk her into drinking a bit, and was chatting about the legend of Akuji Kishima and Beatrice in a happy, tipsy mood. Erika would nod from time to time, but besides this she listened in complete silence. She wasn't actually taking notes, but she was gathering information on the whiteboard inside her head. Then she frowned as though noticing something out of place and held up her hand.
Wait a second.
Oh, yes?
That shrine was built by a travelling Shugenja monk to seal up the evil spirits of Akuji Kishima. Isn't that right?
Yes, that is correct. It was one who possessed a vast supernatural power, and who placed that power within the mirror.
And placed it within the shrine as a sacred mirror to seal the evil spirits. Something feels off about that. Why would a shrine to seal the evil spirits of Akuji Kishima also seal Beatrice?
Oh, well, that's because the sacred mirror's spiritual power.
I see. So, it's this really convenient sacred mirror that works on both evil spirits from the east and witches from the west. Got it. I'm still not satisfied, but I'll back off there for now. What I don't understand is why Beatrice can't stand spiderwebs.
According to the legend, the evil spirits of Akuji Kishima despised spiderwebs. Oh, it's gonna get me. Akuji Kishima. According to the legend, the evil spirits of Akuji Kishima despised spiderwebs. So they were apparently used as wards against evil in the surrounding islands. In fact, spiders are a useful bug. There's nothing strange about the fact that island farmers had treasured them. It's very possible that they were then tied to the story of evil spirits and became known as charms against evil, leading to a tradition of people treating this useful bug with care through the generations.
But that's just the legend of Akuji Kishima. The origins for the legend of the witch Beatrice came after Ushiremiya Kinzo moved to this island, when rumours sprouted about the mysterious legend of the gold, as well as the witch mistress who gave it to him. In other words, the evil spirits of Akuji Kishima and the golden witch Beatrice were originally completely different things. And yet, the stories treat them like they're the same.
Well, no. Who's speaking? Is it... Okay. Anji?
Yeah, just go on.
The evil spirits of Akuji Kishima couldn't stand spiderwebs, so neither could Beatrice. That sort of reasoning has been applied all over the place. When it was pointed out that this was strange, Kumasawa was lost for an answer.
The doorknob to Kinzo-san's study has a scorpion magic circle drawn on it, which represents a charm against evil in Western society. That's why the Western witch Beatrice can't touch it. I can understand that part. But there's no reason for Beatrice to dislike spiderwebs. I don't remember spiderwebs ever being included among things witches can't stand. On the contrary, wouldn't spiderwebs be the friends and minions of a witch? In my opinion, those two legends about evil spirits in Akujikishima and the witch Beatrice have been mixed together a little. In fact, maybe they've been fully fused together as one. The legend of Akujikishima is a fairy tale created by fishermen fearful of reefs in the Rukenjima area. However, there was no visual image to go along with those evil spirits. Were they people or monsters, or ghosts without legs? There's no mental picture of them. People are bad at imagining things without visuals. That's when the legend of the witch called Beatrice came in. A witch is a lot easier to picture than evil spirits. And on top of that, Kinzo-san had a portrait of Beatrice drawn and displayed. In other words, the lack of a visual image, which was the one weak point in the legend of Akujikishima, was finally completed. Since then, perhaps the two legends have been mixed together.
Well, I wonder. It is a bit confusing for an old lady such as myself.
Kumasawa laughed to smooth it over, wiping away a cold sweat. She might have seemed confused, but she actually did understand what Erika was saying. In truth, she had been vaguely aware of how the legend of Akujikishima, which had been around before Ushiromi Kinzo, had come to Rukenjima, and the legend of the Golden Witch, the story of the woman who had given Kinzo a vast quantity of gold, had both transformed. She didn't want to acknowledge it, but she knew. The setting where Beatrice hated the spirit mirror and spiderwebs. This had been based on the ancient legend of Akujikishima. The evil spirits part of that legend had just been replaced by the witch of the portrait.
So, if there really was someone claiming to be the Golden Witch Beatrice, I'd really like to ask her whether she actually does hate spiderwebs or not. What happens when she touches them?
It is said that witches and their minions receive burns when they touch spiderwebs. So that is probably what would happen, I suppose.
That's not bad. A splendid witch trial. If the spiderweb touches her and she gets burned, then she's an evil spirit, not a witch. And if nothing happens, then it proves she's just a human. In other words, whether she's burned or not, it will prove that the Golden Witch doesn't exist. The legend of the witch is nothing more than the legend of Akujikishima, reboiled with a new face on it.
Well,
Simply by the existence of the legend itself, this level of reasoning is possible for Furuto Erika. What do you think, everyone?
Where is the everyone she's talking to?
Us.
Though only the two of them were in the lounge. Erika faced in the direction an invisible audience would have been and shrugged. Don't break the fourth wall! And just as Erika imagined, the targets of her comments actually were there, listening in. Spiderwebs? They burn if you touch them. When Beato the Elder snapped her fingers, a graceful silver spider slipped down from the ceiling, hanging by a transparent thread. Afterwards, only a single silver strand remained. Timidly, Beato stretched her finger out towards the spider's string. Then she touched it. I'm fine. You are? Huh? Beato the Elder lifted up a white, pale finger, and after showing it to her little sister, she traced the silver string with it. There was a stench like a single hair being burnt. Once again, she held her finger up in front of Beato, who was stunned. There was a thin burn line as though someone had traced across it with a razor. What's going on? That's what I would like to know. Why are you unharmed? I don't know. What I don't understand is why do you get burned by touching a spider web? I do not know. It has always been like that since I first gained consciousness. Then, are you... Beato hesitated. However, her question was clear. No, I am not one of the evil spirits of Akujikishima. I am Beatrice, ruler of Rikenjima's night. Even I do not know why I have the same weakness as this island's evil spirits of old. Are spiderwebs the only things you can't handle? As this Erika person said, I cannot touch the doorknob to Kinzo's study. That scorpion magic circle burns me. For me, trying to open the door to that study is like trying to pick a red-hot horseshoe out of the fire. What about you? Her scorpion magic circles, you mean?
The older sister snapped her fingers again. When she did, the surrounding scene bent and twisted, and they had suddenly moved to the place in front of Kinzo's study. And there was the doorknob engraved with the scorpion's magic circle.
Those who research magic must have a refuge sealed off from both human and spiritual disturbances. It's no surprise that Kinzo chose to seal off his study and place a charm such as this here. And unfortunately that affects me as well.
She gently grasped the doorknob. As she did, a violent burning sound, unbelievably stronger than the one caused by the spiderweb, rang out.
One-sama, are you okay? Your hand, ah!
Her hand had been horribly burnt, and Beato couldn't help but avert her eyes.
Fear not, this scratch will heal quickly.
Apparently it would heal by itself if left alone. The older sister seemed to heal at an inhuman rate.
However, it seems that you can handle it just fine.
She timidly poked the doorknob. Nothing happened. Slowly, she touched it with her entire palm, but she felt nothing but a pleasantly cool sensation.
Strange, though you are my double, you are different from me in several ways. While I might be able to touch the doorknob, if I ever get burnt like you did, I don't think I'd heal that easily. It's as though you're a normal human. Yes, even I find it a little hard to believe that I'm a witch. I can't use magic like you, and I can't get strange burns or heal from them later. Father believed that I was a great witch reborn. But I cannot believe that. Who are you? I am Beatrice. I was born for father's sake. And you, One-sama? I am also Beatrice. I used magic to give Kinzo gold, and later became a soul and the formless witch that haunts this island.
Why does her outfit look so updated then? Compared to Beatrice.
Alright.
Just who on earth are we? Unlike me, you seem to be a being in possession of a body. Really? Yes, I thought of it while listening to that Erika person. I am a witch who can use magic but has no body, and you are a witch who has a body but can use no magic. Eventually, perhaps we will become one, each filling in what the other lacks, to form the true, complete Beatrice.
It seemed to make sense. Both of the Beatrices were missing something. If they became one, then they would surely be very close to the Beatrice that Battler desired.
Do you want to try? Huh? Hold out your hand.
The older sister slowly raised her palm and held it out before Beato.
The large burn from a second ago really had started to heal already.
It may be possible for us to become one. I want to know as well. By becoming one with you, I want to learn about my future self.
Beato also raised her hand slowly, and the two hands touched. But nothing happened. Perhaps this meant that, while they were fated to become one eventually, that time had not yet come.
For me, being burned by spiderwebs is perfectly normal. However, you didn't even know about it. In the same way you say that the reason you were born was for your father's sake. Apparently, that father is Ushiromi, a battler. I know him as a rare guest who only comes a few times a year, but I cannot understand what connection you and I have with such an infrequent visitor. Surely we must learn more about each other. Yes, you're right. I get the feeling that learning about each other will lead us to something very important. On the other side lies the single future of Beatrice. No, it may be more correct to call her the true form we are meant to possess.
With their hands still joined, the two Beatrices swore to fill in the parts the other lacked and regain their single form. Bit by bit, Beato was walking down the path that led to the former Beatrice.
Yeah. This is probably like a 40-minute chapter that we kind of dragged on.
Turned into an hour and a bit. We're getting closer to midnight.
Oh my gosh, still not midnight? There's a whole other chapter of love talk. Probably.
Really?
It'll probably be Jessica and Kanon.
True.
We'll see.